Class, week 5. Welcome. And I hope you guys are doing fantastic. As per usual, the announcement in week 5 is we are officially halfway through this 8-week online course. So keep your spirits up. Honestly, it flies by, doesn't it? Even in those moments where it feels like you're going to gouge your eyes out with another assignment that you stayed up till 3 a.m. doing. But welcome to Tuesday. Moody Mondays are always followed by Happy Tuesdays. I just made that up. So let's look here at week 5. Week 5. You'll see the assignments. I always like to at least touch on reminding you what you just turned in, because many of you are delirious, or you aren't watching this for 2 days and now it's getting late in the week and you can't remember what you did last week. You had your test. Most of you did very average on that. As you know, I'm not the one that designs these tests. These are tests that we put in through all of the distance learning courses for studying and teaching the Bible. So they are kind of like a basic standard. I tend to think that they're pretty tough. Students never do very well on these, even though they're open book and you had a lot of time to take them. So I will likely grade on a curve. Don't hate me at this point when you feel like this was so unfair. There are a couple students that emailed me and said, hey, this question I don't think was fair, didn't make sense. Feel free to send me some of those or give me your general kind of gist on things. But just so you know, I'm going to do one or two things. I'm either going to heavily grade on a curve or give you guys some extra credit, at least by the end after I see how this next test goes. But I know they're tough. We do grade pretty leniently on the other assignments, similar to what you saw like in your Old and New Testament classes in the fall. But the point is don't freak out. An average score was about a 69%, which is like in the C- range on those tests. So your other stuff's going to pull it up. I will grade on a curve, or I will give you extra credit. So don't freak out. Do try to learn from this and do better on the next one, okay? Your discussion board for this past week, if you haven't learned at this point, your discussion boards for this course are very reflective, based on kind of sharing what you're doing in the assignments, and you have a lot of assignments. So my interaction, we're still responding to you, but unlike Christian worship, which you may be taking right now, that has 3 separate discussions a week and very intense on the discussions, this course is more reflective on discussions, and so you want to make sure you do them. But also, this isn't something where I'm going to be giving you, there's not much to give tons and tons of feedback and interaction on, because you're basically doing reflective stuff. And then your audience needs assessment. I had several of you that didn't understand if you actually had to survey anyone, were wondering if you had actually had to survey people, and that is no, you did not have to survey people. You were assessing your audience that you're going to be teaching for, so you needed to have a general idea of who your audience was. Most of you seem to figure that out eventually. So that was week 4. Now we're in week 5. And the assignment 3 is the individual lesson plan. You got your reading and your video here. And then essentially your lesson plan is this. You're going to construct it based on a couple things: the inductive Bible study, and 2, the audience needs assessment, so assignment 1 and 2. So you're putting your lesson plan together in light of what you've done up to this point. That's all that is saying. You're going to utilize now this week this HBLT, the Hook, Book, Look, Took method. Keep in mind, this is a method of doing Bible study. It's common, at Moody, everyone goes through the Hook, Book, Look, Took thing. It'll become a nice little catchphrase that you'll make Bible school jokes about in the coming semesters. But it's just a method. It's not the way to do Bible study. There isn't a scripture where we took the Hook, Book, Look, Took out of. It's simply a way of doing sound, really literature study, but geared towards Bible study, and that's what we're having you do for this class. And then you're going to find this predominantly in the CBT book, chapter 9. Okay, so you're going to find the lesson plan template that's in this lesson 5 resource folder. So simply click on that. Lesson 5 resource folder will open. You'll see 3 things in here. You'll already have found that lesson aim verbs sheet. Lesson aim verbs, where is that? I think this is it. Oh, I am holding it there. That's what the lesson name verbs is. You had that last week. I'm going to mention that again in a second. You may not need to use that this week. That's not what you're turning in. You're not turning that in. The grading guide, every week it tells you to turn the grading guide in, as you know. And by now most of you have realized that I'm not a big stickler to turn the grading guide in. That was mostly when this class was built for, not using online. So it was so that the professor could fill out the grading guide and hand it back to the students. But since we're filling out your scores and giving you, your grades online, you don't need to fill in that grading guide or turn in the grading guide. There's nothing for you to do on it. It's just that you're basically acknowledging that you've seen it and understand how we're grading it. So the only thing you're turning in this week is the lesson plan template. Okay, so back to week 5 here. You're going to be doing the HBLT, and you're going to begin writing a lesson plan that you will teach on Jonah using the skills you've learned in this course. So be prayerfully attuned to the Holy Spirit's guidance as you investigate the scriptures. You must, submit the grading guide. This is what I just said. It says you to submit it. I don't care if you submit that part, but you're definitely submitting the lesson plan. Okay? That's what that's saying there. Submit the lesson plan. Now, here is the kicker. All right. You will notice that in particular for the, where am I? I'm looking at another sheet here that you can't see. For the, well, let me just open up that lesson plan. Lesson plan template. Oh, I have it all down here. That's why it's not opening. Sorry, I've got 2 screens open, so I need to pull it up here so you can see it. Okay, so this is the lesson plan template. You're going to needs assessment summary. Be sure to briefly identify the group, give average number of attendance. So you're building off of what you've already done in your audience needs assessment, right? So go ahead and put the stuff in here. What I am going to allow you to do is not, you just did the cognitive, affective, and behavioral lesson aims last week. You can just copy and paste them in there if you would. You don't need to do new ones. What I'm referring to is the fact that, let's see, lesson 3. No, that's not that one. Audience needs assessment here. Okay. So from last week, if you recall, you did this, right? And over here, you already did a cognitive, affective, and behavioral lesson aim, right? So you're not needing to redo it. All we're having you do is just fill in the same ones right here. Some of this will be repeat too. So the new part that you're doing this week, again, is the HBLT, the hook, book, look, took stuff. Okay? So I'm going to post some examples of how to do that. Again, I'll use Brian Smith's examples because he went through and made examples for everything. So I'm going to post some of those for you so you can see an example of how to do it. I'm also going to post a sample of an overall lesson plan of a different passage, so you can see what this looks like. I'll put it up for you here briefly so you can see it, but I'll post this as well. Sample lesson plan from 1 Corinthians 3. So you'll see just what this looks like in a totally different text. You're obviously doing Jonah, which is a lot different than a 1 Corinthians passage, but you see how he integrates, or the student integrates really everything that you're going to do for your class or for your assignment here. So it includes the aims and that sort of thing, but then it gets into the hook, book, look, took. And that's what this week you really want to pay attention to. So you see the transitional sentences and things of that nature. So really use that to give you a good idea of what this is supposed to look like. And then obviously, like for the hook, he used a scene from Schindler's List. So this can be all over the place as far as an example or a hook to draw their attention. I'm not expecting all of you or even half of you or a fraction of you to use a movie or something like that, but that's an example of what they use there, and that's discussed in your assignment this week in the reading and things that you do. But that's what I'm going to have you do. So you're focusing this week for the individual lesson plan. You're using the stuff that you've done previously, and when there's something, hey, I already did that, just copy it from your previous work, put it in there, and then you're focusing on the hook, book, look, took. Now, the other thing I'm going to post in here are some evaluation questions that you're going to do later. So there's a point later on, if you flip down through future weeks, you'll see that they want like an updated lesson plan again. And instead of doing that whole lesson plan all over again, I'm posting some evaluation questions here. You don't need to do them this week, but instead of that redoing the whole lesson plan again and posting that later in the course, I'm just going to have you fill in these evaluation questions. So I'm just going to put these in so you have them and kind of know what they are as you're preparing. And then I'm going to put a couple of these videos that shows how to do the hook, book, look, took, and the methods, as well as I think I already posted how to do lesson aims, but in case you didn't or want to revise them, feel free to revise them if you don't like what you did last week. And we'll go from there. So I think you guys will have a pretty good handle on things. We're trying to hold your hand as much as we can to make sure that that you are not confused at what the assignment is, that you can spend your time figuring out what you need to do for your audience. That's what we want you to be spending your time on, not sitting around twiddling your thumbs figuring out how to do the assignment. So then in the discussion board, this week, again, very reflective based. Share with class members some of the needs you have observed in the class you will be teaching. So this is kind of sharing some of what your audience needs assessment was. As you think through who you're going to be giving your lesson to, what are some of the needs you've observed in that audience that you're going to be teaching? This says teaching during week 8. That's actually incorrect. You're going to be teaching during week 7. There may be one or two of you that need to teach during week 8 because week 7 doesn't work, but that's not ideal. You've got your last test that week, and I want plenty of time to do the grading and so forth. So it's due during week 7, your teaching. So unless you have a good reason why you can't do your lesson and teach during week 7, it's week 7. So not week 8. Don't let that confuse you. And again, with these discussions, they're just there to have you kind of interacting. We already, in terms of me giving professor feedback, unless you're missing something completely, there's not a whole lot that I can kind of give you because you're giving your individual experience and what you're observing in your class. But if you have specific questions, please ask me directly. If you're not getting the feedback or you want more specific feedback on something, I'm more than happy to write you as much as you need or to talk to you if you need it. So that is it for this week. Pretty straightforward. As always, email me or call me or Facebook me if you have any needs. And enjoy the study of Jonah. It's a good one, and I love you all. Bless you.